Okay, so we have started building out a bit of a dashboard here, having put together a dynamic pivot table, as you can see here, and then also a pivot chart to complement, visually speaking, the pivot table itself. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to add some slicers and a timeline. These are free-floating filters that we can put together on a dashboard that really allow us and our audience to filter the data as they'd like to do. So with my active cell somewhere in the pivot table, anywhere, I'm going to go to my pivot table analyze ribbon tab, and I'm going to come to my filter group and find insert slicer. I'm going to click this one time, and this opens up my insert slicers dialog box. This is where I can choose the fields that exist inside this pivot table. What we're going to choose is region and type. Those two types. I'm going to click OK, and they pop into my screen here. I'm going to select region, reposition it a little just to the right hand side of my chart, and then with it still selected, I'm going to come up to my slicer ribbon tab. Over here under size, I'm going to change the height to 2.5. Now see how it trims off the bottom nicely for me? That's good. I'm going to select the type slicer and just bring it out here a little bit, and then change the height of this one to 1 inch. So I'm going to come up to the height, just click in there one time and type 1 and press enter. That looks good. It trims it up nicely. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to reposition the type slicer to just below the region. Now if I can't manage to get it exactly where I want it to be, let me scroll down a little. I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to press Control, and now I have them both selected. Up here in my slicer ribbon tab, I'm going to find Arrange. I can click the alignment drop down and then choose Center. And now they both are centered nicely. Pretty simple. Now with them selected, if I wanted to go one extra step, I can come over to the slicer style, click the More button for the gallery, and then I can maybe come down and choose one of these fancy ones, maybe this nice orange one, just to see the difference. Look at that. It looks pretty sharp. This kind of allows me to identify real quick that these are indeed filters. So if I wanted to, I can click just Africa. Now Africa is only selected, which means gives me all the salespeople who have generated revenue for Africa, for both retail and wholesale. So if I wanted to see retail only, look at that. It tailors it down, narrows it down even more. Now when I'm done, I want to remove these filters. I'll just click this right here, clear filters, there we are. Next I want to put in a timeline. So I'm going to come back to my pivot table here, come back to my pivot table analyze ribbon tab, and over here in the filters I'm going to see insert timeline. Click that one time. Here's the only field that we have for date time. Click OK, and it drops it right there in the center. I'm going to bring it right over here, and I'm going to stretch it out. I want to make it wider. I want to make it to 4.5 inches. So I'm going to type 4.5 and then press enter. And there's a reason for that. We're going to see what it means here in a moment. Now having this in here, I want to change the date time caption of this filter to say time period. So I'm going to come here to my timeline ribbon tab. Over in the timeline group, I'm going to change right here where it says date time. I'm going to type in time period. Just like that, press enter. Now it is more appropriately labeled. Now with this still selected, I'm going to the timeline styles, click that drop down, and maybe choose this dark blue one. That looks good. Now I'm going to in here I can change what type of time is it looking at. Right now it's on months. Let's change this to quarters. Now I can see there's the 2016 and here's 2017, quarters 1 through 4, and so on. So if I wanted to see quarter 2, looks good. Now I can cross-reference really fast at a glance quarter 2 for Al here. He's at 6% to quarter 2 of the previous year. He's still at 6%, or so on. Okay, so I'm going to remove those filters. Now there's one last thing I want to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my exercise file. Now remember, I'm looking in the sales data folder, and these are the two files in here. I'm going to come to my main folder and find the 2018. I'm going to select it and copy it, so I'm pressing Control C. I copy it, I go back to my sales data, and I'm going to do Control V for paste. Now there's 3 files in here. Now this is really going to accentuate the benefit to building a pivot table in this manner. So now we drop another file into the folder that Excel's already looking at, connecting to, right? So now that I did that, I'll move that out of the way. So now that I did that, I'm going to come over to my data, and then I'm going to come over down to the queries and connections group, and I'm going to click refresh. But after I do it, look at that timeline. It identifies and recognizes the 2018 text file that we had in there as well. So now we can do a Q2 cross-reference for 2018 for Al is at 4%, Q2 for 2017 was 6, 2016 was 6. So we can see a little bit of a trend here. Let me remove all those filters, and that's all there is to it. Well, thanks for joining me. This is the end of this workshop. This has finished out our dashboard that we just built here, and it looks pretty nice. I hope this was informational, and if you find this of interest, share it with a friend, and be sure to share your knowledge. Thanks for joining me. Bye now.